So today we are going to take from the Irish Curriculum Business Ordinary, Chapter 26. It's talking about international trade. What is international trade? International trade is the exchange of goods and services between countries. It's the exchange of goods and services between countries. And it is done in two ways, imports and export. What is export? Export is when goods are sold from one country to other countries. Import is when goods are bought from other countries into a country. So there is what they call visible and invisible trade. Okay, there's what they call visible and invisible trade. Visible trade is the exchange of physical goods between countries, while invisible trade is the exchange of services between countries. So there is visible export and import, and there is also visible, invisible export and invisible import. So if they ask you in an examination to differentiate between the two, you should just focus your mind. Visible means physical goods. So, visible export is when physical goods are sold from one country to another, while visible import is when goods are bought from other countries into a particular country. So, invisible export is the same, is when services are transported from one country to another, while invisible import is when services are brought from one country to into a country. Okay, so there are reasons why countries are involved in import. The reason why countries are involved in import. The first reason why countries decide to import goods from out other countries is to provide especially raw materials or essential resources needed for the home industries to operate. Raw materials that cannot be produced in the home countries, they need to import them from other countries in order for home industries to peacefully operate. The second reason why countries involved into import is to provide um, consumers with varieties of goods so that consumers can be free to make choices that will not depend on a single product in that country. Then the third reason is to be able to get consumers product that cannot be produced in that country. Remember, countries, there are certain countries that don't produce certain products and which may be needed by the citizens of that country. So, in order for that country to be able to provide or to meet up with the demand of the citizens concerning that product, they need to import it from other countries. So, these are the three reasons why countries are involved in imports to provide raw materials, to provide variety of goods, and also to provide goods that are not produced in home countries. Then, why do countries involve in export? Number one, to gain wider markets for home products, because home products, if they are produced in high scale, they need to be sold in other markets in order for the company or for the home industries to meet up with their profit margin. That's the first. The second reason is they want to enjoy economies of scale. What is economies of scale? Economies of scale is the cost reduction of the production. They want to enjoy because the more you produce, the more the cost of production falls. So if they have opportunity to sell in other countries, they will produce in high scale. And if they produce in high scale, it means the cost of producing that product will drop. So they will enjoy economics of scale. Then they also want to reduce the risk of over dependence or depending on a particular product. So they will make sure that they engage in export in order for them to expand. Those are the reasons why countries will involve in export and import. Now, how is international trade measured? International trade is measured in two ways. There's what they call balance of trade, and there's what they call balance of payment. Under this balance of trade and balance of payment, there is what they call visible balance of payment and invisible balance of payment. There's also what they call visible balance of trade and invisible balance of trade. What is balance of trade? Balance of trade is the differences between uh, physical goods imported and physical goods exported. If import is more than export, it is called balance of trade deficit. But if export is more than import, it's called balance of trade surplus. So it has their effect, which we shall see in this lesson. Then balance of payment is the differences between services exported and services imported. Like I said before, it follows the same margin. If the services imported are more than the services exported, it is called balance of payment deficit. And if the services exported are more than the services imported, it is called balance of payment surplus. So you always see it most in most exams. Sometimes they will use the bar chart to explain. Sometimes they will use the graph. Sometimes they will use a table. Just look at the figures. Anytime you see that the export is more than the import, just know it's a surplus. If you see that the import is more than the export, just know it is deficit. And there are reasons why it is like that. Why? What are the reasons? There are impact of balance of trade deficit, and there's also impact of balance of trade surplus. Okay, number one, if there is balance of trade deficit, more money will leave the country. More money leaves the country. How? Because the firms or the companies who import products into the country, they send back the profit to their home country. So there is no benefit of more imports into a country when it doesn't meet with the export rate, because the exported product also needs to send the profit back to their home countries. This is what contributes to GDP. It is called net property income from abroad. Okay, so the first effect or impact of a balance of trade deficit is when more money leaves the country. That's the first impact. The second impact is the government increases taxes, because if more money leaves the country, it means the economy will face problems. So, in order for the government to meet up with such problems, they need to increase taxes of people. And then the third, there will be unemployment, or there will be redundancy, high redundancy or high unemployment rate, because most companies in that country would not like to keep more employees when the country is facing shortage of funds or of money. So they have to reduce some workers.